New project for Jim Rogers, chief of Rogers Holdings, with the launch of their Rogers Global Resources Equity Index today in cooperation with BBVA, the bank, and also the CITIC Group of China as well. Jim, the construct, the componentry of this. You said a couple hundred companies, but what kind of criteria do you use?
There are a couple of hundred. The sectors are energy, mining, agriculture, alternative energy, sure. Lumber, forestry. It's going to be the main companies and the most liquid companies in those sectors. It's pretty simple to figure out. You take the best companies, and hopefully, if the world goes the way I think it's going to go, these companies are going to be the best performers.
Okay. What parameters, though? I mean, do you look for companies which are pitched very low on a valuation basis versus their peers?
It's liquidity and market standing. It's an index.
Right.
This is not stock picking. This is not somebody saying, "Oh, IBM is better than Toyota."
Because then you'd be actively managing a fund.
Then it'd be an actively managed fund. No, this is an index fund.
Okay.
But the criteria are to pick the best companies and have the most liquid companies in the index in those sectors. It's fairly straightforward.
Jim, we've got some viewer emails coming through, and if I can pitch one to you from AB, who writes in, if oil prices keep rising and it impacts the global economy adversely, won't this dampen the appetite for other commodities such as copper?
Well, of course, but remember, we have shortages of everything. If you can have declining demand and still have a bull market in a commodity, because if supply goes down faster, Karen, than demand does, it's still a bull market. Lead has lost 35% of its demand in the past few decades. It lost petrol, gasoline, and it lost paint. And yet lead has gone through the roof in the past few years because the supply has gone down faster than the demand. Remember, commodities are both supply and demand. It's the shortages of agriculture are developing. Even if people eat less, we don't have enough farmers. We don't have enough farmland.
Yeah. Jim, can I get your call on soft commodities, especially cocoa, given the fact that the situation politically in Ivory Coast still remains very, very tense, and there is a lot of unrest there. Is this a recipe for further gains in the price of cocoa?
Of course it is, Sri. That's the way. If people cannot farm their cocoa in Ivory Coast, which is a gigantic producer, or if they cannot get it out of the cocoa to the world markets, the price will go much higher. When you have bull markets in anything, towards the end or in the last few years, prices go to staggering heights, likes of which nobody can conceive. Cisco, in the bull market in stocks, went up 100 times. 100. Nobody could have conceived of it. That's what happens in bull markets, and that's what's happening in this one, and is going to continue to happen.
Jim, I've got to ask you, the composition of this index, alternative energy plays, wind, water, etc. Is that sort of partly a natural hedge against, let's say, higher oil as well?
Well, it's a source of energy. The commodities include energy, and yes, this is man-made energy. Well, not really man-made energy, it's natural energy. But yes, it's got, as far as I'm concerned, alternate energy has a huge future because the world is running out of known reserves of oil. And politicians love alternative energy, whether it's solar or windmills or whatever. Someday we're going to look out the window, Martin, in Singapore, and we're going to see solar panels everywhere and windmills everywhere. Then maybe the bull market will come to an end. But no, it's got a fantastic future.
We're gonna beat you in Hong Kong on that solar issue. We get more typhoons here.
I'm looking out the window. I don't see any yet.
Well, they're coming, unfortunately, around the corner, probably in 2 or 3 months. You don't get typhoons; the rain comes straight down instead of sideways in Singapore. More viewer email? You game?
Yeah, sure.
New sport? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Garnett writes in from CA. What's CA? Canada or California? Canada. Excuse me. How could I forget? What is your view on the likelihood of QE3 in the second half? And is inflation in China a derivative of the global boom-bust capitalist model, where the Chinese economy is now reflating to normal after a bust? Two-part, almost three-part question.
The problem worldwide is that governments are printing a lot of money. It's having an inflationary effect in China, perhaps exacerbated in China because of exchange controls. You know, the money's trapped in China. It's got to go into something, so it's going into real assets, which probably makes inflation worse in China. But we're going to continue to have this situation. Governments are printing money. QE3 will... if the world economy gets better, you're going to make a lot of money in natural resources. commodities. If the world economy doesn't get better, you should own commodities, because then governments are going to print more money. That's all they know to do. It's the wrong thing to do, Bernie, but that's all they know to do. These guys are not very smart. That's why they work for the government.
Since we're talking about China in this, in this realm, you've been a big China bull for a long time. I mean, you talk to us regularly about how farmers in Anhui province will be the ones owning the Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and the Maseratis in the future. And yet, look what's happened on Wall Street. The bonus season is back. They're trying to manage that message by making a lot of it deferred. But a lot of the troubled children that got us into this mess didn't go away. They're still there. They're still raking in the bucks once again. Well,
I find it totally outrageous that we bailed out the Wall Street and we bailed out the banks. No, I railed about it in 08 and 09, and I'll rail about it again here today if you want to in 11. No, I think it's absurd. The way capitalism is supposed to work, if you go bankrupt, you go bankrupt. You don't go running to the government and say, oh, give me some money, give me some money, give me some money. You go bankrupt. I find it outrageous of what happened.
Okay. I'm taking your advice, Jim. I've been getting a green thumb. I'm planting herbs on the planter on the balcony.
Oh, fantastic.
It's about all the farmland I have.
Get yourself a sun hat and get out in the fields.
Yeah, for 5 square feet.
Karen, you join him. Karen.
She will never get within 10 feet of that dirt.
I'm going to go buy property in Bratislava because they've got all those big wind turbines along the border there, so I'm guessing that must be a good buy too, Jim.
Do it. I'll come buy products from you.
She's going to hire a farmer, though, a yard keeper. She's not going to touch that stuff.